Transparency Initiative, Mr. Waziri Adio. Welcome, sir. Let me also introduce very respectfully the consultant who worked on this. I'm talking about Mr. Cliff Osage. I think Clifford means Cliff in Clifford something, yes. Let me also introduce Mrs. Grace, who is a Deputy Director from the Department for Public Prosecution at the Ministry of Justice. Earlier I saw somebody from the Department of, is it? Bureau for Public Procurement, so I think I missed it. You know, they were here earlier. In fact, they were one of the earliest that came. Yes. Please, can we also recognize them? Let me also recognize someone whose presence is very unique. And I said this because the British government has, last year really, I was in that conference where the announcement for the push for beneficial ownership, transparency started. Mr. Andrew Fleming is the representative of British High Commission. Andrew? And British government and their participation in all of this is, like I said, very unique. The
transparency is genuine. This will only be achieved if the challenges involved in establishing a fully functional register are mapped, understood, and ultimately overcome. Such aspirations dovetail with the purpose of the UK's Prosperity Fund, for which we have the opportunity to fund a number of small project interventions over the past few months. One of these was to take a team of key practitioners, many of whom are sitting with me at the top table, to the UK for a study visit to learn about the British experience of establishing a register of beneficial ownership. The report you have today shares lessons learned from that visit and will help inform what needs to happen next. And as you will hear from the main presenters, there's a lot that does need to happen. But I'm very confident that under the leadership and direction of colleagues like Juliet and Waziri, it will happen. It will not be easy. Establishing a successful register will mean significant changes to the ways of working, particularly within the Corporate Affairs Commission, who will ultimately maintain the register. Hence, it was excellent that Maniri was also...
It's great to be here. I'm happy to see everybody. On behalf of NATI, that's the Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, revenue transparency. But we also got to a time that we realized that that is not enough. That we also need to know, that we should all, and one of these we're going to be talking about to the main presentation about our own experience in trying to implement this, is that we need all of society part of this. So we need people from government, we need our partners like the British government, we need people from civil society, from business. So this is something that's a win-win, that's good for everybody. Commitment is one thing, implementation is another. So we believe that this event that's happening here is one step towards that process of implementation. And implementation is not going to be a one-off event. It's going to take a lot of efforts to have the register in place, to make sure that we have a decent register and that people use the register. So I'm happy to be here and look forward to this journey with you. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, distinguished guests and members of the OGP National Steering Committee in Nigeria. I think what we are doing here today is what we set out to do from the moment the President committed to sign onto, first of all, the London commitments in May 2016, and eventually signing onto the Open Government Partnership, which sets out what Nigeria intends to do in terms of improving transparency and accountability in governance. And today, what we are discussing today is Commitment 6 of the OGP, the Open Government Partnership National Action Plan, which can be downloaded from the Federal Ministry of Justice website for those who are interested in seeing the full remit of the NAP, the National Action Plan that Nigeria has set out and would implement between 2017 to 2019. The discussion today, the policy dialogue on how Nigeria will set up the register of beneficial ownership, is something that Nigeria is committed to, not only because it helps us to improve transparency in the way we do business in Nigeria, but like NESG commented right now, is that is going to open up Nigeria for more businesses to come in. So there are benefits which we can talk about as we move on. Benefit in terms of improving foreign direct investments that come into Nigeria. Benefit in terms of how people perceive Nigeria, not as a country that is opaque in the way we do business, but also that Nigeria can move from being corrupt to being transparent and to being accountable, and that we have a leadership today in Nigeria that is interested in opening up Nigeria for business. I think this is what is fundamental. And also inclusiveness. Inclusiveness in the terms, the way we engage the public sector, the private sector, the way we engage civil society organizations. Essentially, our commitment on the Open Government Partnership underlines the fact that Nigeria is committed to moving from where we have been in terms of opaqueness to more transparency. And we're bringing in everybody on board. So we have the triangular process where we're saying government wants to open up, to work closely with the private sector and to work closely with the civil society organization. And if you look at the policy brief, essentially what I want to do today is to talk about what we have done to those corporate entities that are established for the purposes of either they use it to move monies that were collected through bribery, or monies that were collected through mispricing, or monies that were collected through when people try to evade tax as well. They also go to offshore centers, or they use these corporate bodies to hide the monies that they don't want tax bodies to identify. Next slide. Again, we looked at it from the angle of international framework. We know that the G20 have been working closely with the FATF and is requesting so many countries to sign onto this and to show that they really want to operate in a transparent framework. The essence of this is that as we move on and as Nigeria continues to want to play globally, Nigeria also needs to put in place certain